this now.
Get out here now. Put that down. I told you to put it down. Come on, Harry. You're not going to shoot a kid when there's 2 coppers upstairs, are you? He swore to me that he didn't. You okay, me old mate?
Harry Brown is an elderly pensioner and veteran of the Royal Marines who lives alone in a rundown section of London. He regularly visits his wife Kathy, who is admitted to a nearby hospital. Because of the gang activity in the area, Harry avoids the shortcut through the pedestrian underpass and takes the long way around instead. When he finally arrives at the hospital, the news is grim. Kathy isn't doing well, and looking at the ward around her, Harry can tell from the state of the other patients that it's only a matter of time before she's gone. Most of his days are spent at the chessboard with his only friend, Len, the one person he can really open up to about Kathy. Len asks how she's holding up. Len is furious about what the neighborhood has become, particularly after watching a drug deal go down right inside the pub in front of the owner, Sid, without anyone batting an eye. He suspects Sid might even be involved. Harry, though, just wants to keep his head down and urges Len to let it go. That same night, Harry watches from his window as a group of thugs break into a car parked outside. When the owner comes out to stop them, the gang turns on him and beats him badly. Harry draws his curtain and turns away. Later that night, the phone rings. Kathy is dying. He rushes out into the pouring rain, but because he still won't take the underpass, he arrives too late. She's already gone. It's a painful reminder that avoiding trouble doesn't always mean trouble leaves you alone. Kathy is buried shortly after, and Len stands beside his friend through all of it. Afterward, the two sit together for a quiet game of chess at Sid's. Harry shares a memory he doesn't often revisit. A fellow Marine named Bob, who was actually responsible for him meeting Kathy. She'd been Bob's date at a military dance, but Harry couldn't stop thinking about her eyes, so he stole the girl and never looked back. Len points out it's the first time Harry has ever brought up his time in the Marines, and he seizes the moment to ask whether Harry ever took a life during his service. The question lands hard, and the discomfort is obvious on Harry's face. He tells Len the Marines feel like a different lifetime and a different man entirely. When Kathy came into his life, he made a conscious choice to leave all of that behind, and he never looked back. Later, Len reveals what's really been eating at him. The local gang hasn't just been making his life uncomfortable from a distance. They've been actively targeting him, even spitting in his face. He's had enough. Len pulls a sword out from under his coat. Harry urges him to take it to the police instead, but Len has already been down that road and gotten nowhere. His mind is made up. Not long after, a pile of rubbish is found smoldering inside Len's apartment while he sleeps. The smoke eventually drags him awake, and he stumbles outside, cursing into the night. The following morning, Harry answers a knock at his door to find Detective Inspector Frampton and Sergeant Hicks standing outside. They sit him down and deliver the news that Len Atwell is dead. Harry goes completely still, unable to find words for a full minute. Len's body was discovered inside the pedestrian walkway, they explain, and they want to know if he'd seemed distressed lately. Harry tells them about the gang troubles Len had been dealing with, but without any names to go on, the investigation won't move quickly. As Frampton leaves, she offers her card and suggests calling someone to keep Harry company. But the people he would have turned to are gone now, both of them. The moment the door closes behind the detectives, Harry breaks down completely. Frampton and Hick burst into the home of a known gang leader named Noel and arrest him on suspicion of murder while his mother screams in his defense. They throw him into the transport vehicle, and Frampton notes something telling. Noel hasn't once asked who he's supposed to have killed. Along with Noel, officers bring in other gang members, Carl, Mark, and the clearly out-of-it Dean. Frampton tries to get through to Dean, asking if he can even hear her, but the whole group denies any knowledge of Len or any attack. One of them erupts with a string of obscenities, insisting he has no idea what she's talking about. Frampton and Hick push back hard, trying to work through the insults and extract something useful, but they leave with nothing. The next day, Harry has a priest say a prayer over Kathy's grave, then goes to Sid's to drink. As he counts out money for his drink, some of the cash spills onto the bar, and Dean, also at the pub, takes notice. Harry heads home through the dark, a little unsteady on his feet, when Dean steps out of the shadows with a knife, demanding his money. Harry doesn't back down. When Dean lunges, instinct takes over. Harry redirects the blade, and it ends up buried in Dean's chest. He walks back home quickly, strips off his bloody clothes, showers, and lies down in bed with nothing but his thoughts for company. The next morning brings another knock from Frampton. Inside, she spots a photograph of Harry in his Royal Marines days and notices an unfinished chess game on the table. But Harry knows she isn't there for small talk. She explains that the knife used to kill Len was actually Len's own. Harry cuts her off before she can finish, making clear that Len had the knife because he was defending himself. His temper rises steadily. Len had been harassed and threatened. He went to the police, and nothing was done. Frampton explains that because the murder weapon belonged to Len, his attackers could claim self-defense and face only manslaughter charges at most. Harry can't believe she came all this way just to tell him that, and he shows her the door. Something shifts in him after she leaves. That night, Harry opens an old box of war memories and pulls out a blade. He then makes his way to Len's burned-out apartment and steps inside. Through Len's window, he can see the pedestrian underpass below, where a cluster of teens are gathered near the entrance, clearly up to nothing good. He watches as a young couple stops to buy drugs, and then watches the thugs turn on the man when he tries to defend his girlfriend from their harassment. One of the thugs, who looks like Carl, pulls out a gun. Harry begins to hunt. He follows a thug named Kenny later that night, tailing him to a drug house. He knocks on the door and presents himself as a potential customer. Inside, he meets another thug named Skinny, who lets him in while Kenny shoves a gun in his face, until Skinny waves him off. Harry spins a story about needing a gun to clear pigeons off his roof, and somehow it lands. Skinny walks him through an indoor drug farm and into a back room where a girl is passed out on a couch, completely out of it, and a TV nearby plays a video of Skinny assaulting another unconscious woman. Skinny offers Harry the chance to do whatever he wants with the passed-out girl for 50 quid. Harry is revolted but holds it together, keeping his focus on getting a gun. He takes a seat, and Skinny injects himself right there in front of him without a second thought. Then Kenny empties a bag of firearms onto the table in front of Harry, handling them with the enthusiasm of someone showing off toys, holding one up and talking about how good it looks, how clean it is, how it's a proper piece. Then he gets into the pricing, £1 per bullet, and $700 for the .38. Both men get into the drugs while Harry quietly loads one of the guns, playing the confused old man. Kenny takes it from him but doesn't check the chamber. The problem is that Skinny still has a weapon in his hand and his eyes fixed on Harry. Harry suggests they should probably get some help for the girl who's passed out. Skinny just tells him to pay and leave. He turns toward Kenny and fires the gun beside him, but the chamber's empty and he drags smoke through the barrel. These men are completely unhinged, but Harry recognizes it's now or never. He stabs Kenny through the hand and goes for Skinny, but the shot misses. Skinny aims back, not realizing he's out of rounds. Harry takes down Kenny, then fires at Skinny, who disappears into the growing operation. When Harry finds him, Skinny is on the ground, already hit. Harry picks up his weapon and tells him plainly that he failed to maintain his firearm. As Skinny lies there fading, Harry tells him quietly that he won't make it. He saw a wound like that during the war and watched his mate die slowly from it. He tells Skinny he should have called an ambulance for the girl, and then puts a round through his head. Harry loads the girl into a nearby truck, takes all the weapons, and burns the building before driving away. At a hospital, he pulls up to the entrance, finds a stack of cash inside the bag of guns, leaves some of it with the girl, hits the horn, and disappears. Frampton meets with Superintendent Childs, but despite Len's case still being unresolved, Childs has shifted his focus entirely to the recent shootings at the drug house and plans to launch a new operation targeting gun violence and narcotics. Her murder investigation is being put on hold, and he dismisses her before she can get a word in edgewise. Harry donates the rest of the cash at a church, then visits both Kathy's and Len's graves. That night, watching from Len's apartment window, Harry spots a dealer named Troy arriving to collect money from Noel, who's been selling drugs to pay off a debt. After the handover, Troy calls Mark over and drives him to a secluded spot where Mark performs a sexual act on him. A gunshot shatters the quiet and takes Troy through the head. It's Harry. He grabs Mark and drags him to an abandoned apartment, pressing him on what happened to Len, the man that he and his crew killed. Mark denies everything and refuses to say a word, so Harry lashes his legs with a wire. Harry tells him flatly that if he doesn't start talking, he'll shoot out his kneecaps. Mark finally breaks and claims Len came at them with a blade, and all they did was rough him up a bit. Harry doesn't believe it and shoves the gun against Mark's head until Mark shouts that the whole thing was filmed on his phone. Harry watches the footage. He sees Len pull the blade, but then the whole gang swarms him and beats him down. A hooded figure drives the knife into Len. Then Noel is seen urinating on him. Harry is shaken watching it, but the shock turns to cold rage, and he demands to know the name of the person who actually stabbed his friend. Later, Noel and Carl are in the walkway with two girls when Mark comes stumbling in, limbs bound and a chain around his neck. He's barely moving. Both Noel and Carl pull weapons, trying to see what's at the other end of the chain. Panicking, they open fire into the darkness and hit Mark in the process. A shot fires back from the shadows and drops Carl. Harry steps into the light, but Carl manages to squeeze off a round near him, giving Noel the window to run. Harry gives chase, but his body won't cooperate. His asthma cuts him down before he can close the distance. He thinks fast and tosses his weapon into the river. Harry comes to in a hospital bed with Frampton and Hick in the room, ready to question him, but nurses wheel him away before they can start. Frampton lingers and notices something on Harry's jacket, but keeps it to herself. She heads back to the scene and something about Harry keeps nagging at her. She tells Hick she smelled cordite on his jacket, essentially gunpowder residue, though Hick doesn't think it means much. Back at the station, Childs and the team are gearing up to execute warrants across the area. Childs sees Harry as a witness. Frampton thinks he's their primary suspect. She lays out the connections between Harry, Len, and every dead thug, and asks for a warrant to test Harry's jacket for gunshot residue. Childs is skeptical that a pensioner could be behind any of it and points out that Frampton never followed up on Troy or his associates. He then tells her she's been shortlisted to lead an inquiry into identity theft, and she's left wondering whether that's a promotion or a way to move her off the case. That night, Childs leads a massive, heavily armed police operation into the apartment complex, pulling in multiple suspects. But other thugs in the area respond immediately, launching rocks at the officers and driving them back. The situation escalates fast, and a full-scale riot engulfs the estate. The police can't contain it. Harry discharges himself from the hospital the moment he's alone, ignoring his condition entirely. Frampton figures out he's gone and suspects he's heading for Noelle, though at this point, Hick more or less concedes Harry might be doing them a service. Harry slips through the riot and back into Len's apartment, where he retrieves a gun he'd stashed there. Frampton and Hick arrive at the estate, but a thrown object smashes their windshield and sends the car into a crash, leaving Hick with a serious injury. Harry materializes out of nowhere to help them, and together he and Frampton half-carry Hick into Sid's pub, with Harry telling Sid to get an ambulance on the line. Harry checks on Frampton, and she freezes when she sees a gun tucked into his waistband. She tells him this isn't a war zone, the fight he's been fighting isn't the same as the one he remembers. But Harry tells her his enemies back then at least had a cause. These thugs hurt people purely for the pleasure of it. Frampton warns him that once he kills Noel, Sid will finish him, and Harry looks confused by that until she tells him that Sid is Noel's uncle. Without another word, Harry walks over to confront Sid, who still hasn't made that call for an ambulance. Harry, still in rough shape, demands to know where Noel is. Sid won't tell him. So Harry dials Noel on Mark's confiscated phone, and a ringtone starts up from somewhere in the back room. Noel steps out armed, but Sid tells him to put it down and then urges Harry to do the same. Sid insists he doesn't believe Noel killed Len. Harry plays the video. Even watching it, Sid says he can't let Harry shoot his own nephew. Harry seems to waver, lowering his gun as if reconsidering. Sid takes it from him, and then drives a fist into Harry's stomach. Upstairs, Frampton is trying to reach back up when Noel attacks her. He gets in her face, telling her in graphic terms exactly what he planned to do to her. Sid drags Harry up to the bar and announces he's going to make everything disappear, drop the bodies into the street, and let the riot cover it all. He starts with Hick, strangling him with chilling calm. Noel follows his lead and begins strangling Frampton, but Harry comes to, digs a hidden pistol from his sock, and puts a bullet in Noel's neck. The shot prompts Sid to fire back, catching Harry in the shoulder. Sid moves in to finish the job, and then red laser dots appear across his chest. Frampton's call got through. Sid still raises his weapon, and the responding officers cut him down. A few days later, Child stands in front of cameras at a press conference alongside the rest of police command, taking credit for dismantling the gang. A journalist raises questions about rumors that a vigilante was actually responsible for the deaths, but Childs shuts it down. No evidence to support it, full stop. And slowly, a kind of peace settles back over the estate. Harry steps out for a walk, and this time he takes the underpass, now cleaned up, repainted, and quiet. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this one, hit the like button, drop a comment below, and subscribe so you don't miss future recaps. And don't go anywhere just yet. YouTube has flagged 2 videos it thinks you'll really enjoy, and they're showing up right now, so check those out next.